Can you hear me any better now? Anything? Let me know if you can hear me. I'll take out this, try the different mic. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Anything? Yes. Okay. Awesome. So we'll just do this without it. Hopefully, I put these earplugs in and these and the microphone just because my son might be kind of like, an hour's worth of him not crying is kind of unusual. So that all set. Appreciate you guys all joining. Sorry about the first few minutes here, but I did want to let you ask you guys where you're from. So let me know where you are from, and what have you accomplished in the last 30 days, or if you haven't done anything in the last 30 days, what are you going to do in the next 30 days? Regarding real estate investing, I think that's important when you are taking action. When you're taking action, that's when you're going to see the results. Okay, so let me know. Let's see. I got a bunch of people here telling me, yeah, they can hear me now. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. So tell me. I see Zachariah, Jose, Lonnie. Thank you guys all for joining. There's a couple other Facebook users. One from, hey, we got a Facebook user from New Jersey. Thank you for showing up. Let's see, Zachariah. Thank you for showing. Let's see, Sacramento. Okay, working on your first deal, or maybe did your first deal. All right. Just so you know, like, I know me personally, I've been pretty active in the last 30 days. So I did close one deal. I guess it wasn't 30 days, probably about 35 days ago. So I closed a deal, and that's one that you may have seen it's a Galveston. It was in the email. That was the one I closed about 30 days ago. I also got another deal under contract. So I have another self-storage deal under contract as well. And I have a piece of land that I put under contract as well. And so, just being active, when you're doing those things, so you're sending out LOIs, that's how you're going to get some deals like, eventually under contract, right? Lonnie, thanks for showing up from Florida here. Awesome. Multiple offers on 12 units, duplexes, a couple single families. Awesome. That's great. Okay. All right. So let's see. We got another one. Oh, Jose. Hey, Jose, how you been, buddy? Jacksonville. Okay. Look at it. Submitting 2 LOIs, gathering your team, working with. See, that's the thing, you guys, if you stay active, if you're analyzing deals, this is what I tell people. When you analyze deals, right, then you're going to start submitting LOIs. And when you start submitting LOIs, eventually some things are going to go under contract, right? It's like a funnel, right? So start with analyzing the deals, then sending out LOIs, and then putting things under contract. And when you do that, things start to happen. You start to close deals, and you start to, constantly, fill that pipeline. All right. Awesome. Okay. So let's see. And let me see, today I said we're going to talk about syndicating a self-storage deal. Okay. So that's what we're going to focus on. Love for you guys to also ask any questions, right? So put your questions that you have, write them in the chat. I'll pull from them at the end. So the kind of the format that we'll do is we'll talk about how to syndicate a self-storage deal, right? And some of the hopefully gives you some pointers about how to syndicate these deals, right? And the things that you go through when you're syndicating a deal. And then we'll get into some Q&A, and then I'll talk just Q&A and just answer any questions. So if you pop them in there, I'll come back and answer all those questions. Okay. Try to go about 45 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, maybe shorter, maybe 45 minutes, but definitely not over an hour. Okay. All right. So, hey, great job with a Facebook user here. Underwriting, tons of underwriting, right? And got to find a team. I mean, team's super important here. All right, Lonnie, short-term rental under contract. Oh, sounds good. Awesome. Okay. Tanessa, hey, thank you for joining as well. Thank you for joining. Awesome. Columbia, South Carolina. All right, appreciate it. So let's get into it. So, just to kind of go back into, what we're talking about. We're talking about how to syndicate a self-storage deal. Okay. So today's topic, I'll just put that up there. Just to give you a real quick background about who I am and what I've done. So I have, traditionally I came from the multifamily background. So I have years of investing in multifamily in my own properties, syndicated, been on syndications, been a general partner on 5 different syndications, all large 100-unit properties and more. When COVID came, I basically shifted and added, opened up myself to a different asset class. And that asset class ended up being self-storage. So I closed my first self-storage deal a year ago, a little more than a year ago. So January of 2021. So that was my very first self-storage deal, right? January 2021, owned it now for 14 months, right? Also in 2021, closed on 5 more properties, all self-storage deals. So that's a total of 6 self-storage deals in 2021. Closed my 7th one in February of this year, right? So just a little over a month ago. So I have a total right now of 7 properties that I own, and not just me, but myself and my partners that we own. This 7th one I syndicated. So all the previous ones were joint ventures, right? So we're going to talk about syndication this time. It's a total of 1,700 units. In self-storage, you really don't go by unit count as much. It's not really as important. It's really more by square footage. And that's a total of a little over 200,000 square feet. And all of it's outside of California. Although I live in California, all of it is outside of California. Okay. And so, I'm coming at it from, that's my background. That's where I'm coming at it from, this self-storage and syndicating, right? So let's talk about and let's get into it. Okay. The syndication side. All right. What I did want to show you was I also want to show some pictures. So let me pull up some pictures here of, so you guys can get what I'm. Okay. I just like to show that because it's just nice to have some visuals of what we're talking about. All right. So let's go. Syndications. What is a syndication, right? What is a syndication? So let's start with a baseline. Now, many of you guys already know what a syndication is, or you've been a part of a syndication, but I just want to start out with a baseline understanding of what a syndication is, right? So it's generally you're pooling together people's money, right? Pulling together people's money, resources, their time, right? And then going and investing in sort of a large deal. Now, who are we talking about? Who's involved in a syndication? Generally, syndication has 2 parties, right? There are the limited partners, right? Which by definition means you're passive investing, right? It's a passive investor. And there are general partners. General partners are the active investors. So there's the people making decisions and, doing all the active work, right? So it requires those 2 different parties in a syndication, right? Now, I'm not going to get into all the details of that's a whole nother topic of differences between a syndication. There's a couple different types of syndications that you would go through, and just understand in general, it's pulling together people's money, right? And there's 2 parties. There's a limited partner side, which are the passive investors, and there's the general partners who are active and who are actively, it's basically running the business is what you're doing. Okay. Now, why syndications? Why would you do a syndication? It's going to cost you $15,000 to $20,000 extra to do a syndication because you got to put in you got to do all the legal paperwork, right? And plus, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. Why do a syndication? Truthfully, it comes down to doing bigger projects, and this is me. I probably should preface this as, hey, this isn't me spouting off like education pieces. This is me talking about me and what I've done, right? So Other people may do it for a different reason. This is why I do it. When it comes to a certain size of property in terms of purchase price, that's where syndication becomes the tool that I use, right? So I've mentioned that I've done joint ventures and I do syndications, right? A property that's about 3 million or less, I'm going to do a joint venture for. All right, so I'm going to create a joint venture. So that's going to be a small group of us. Everybody is an active investor. There's no passive investors. Everybody's active, and it's a small group of us, all making decisions, all going out on the property. Everybody has different responsibilities, and then we go and take this deal down together. Small group of us, right? And a large group on a larger property, when these properties are over $3 million, which happens to be my threshold. Your threshold may be different. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. But when I go above $3 million, I'm probably not going to be able to do that with a small group, just based on what my network, right? Just based on who my network is. So I need to open this up to a larger pool of people, right? And so then it requires a syndication. All right. So that's a little bit about syndication, what it was, who's involved, why take on a syndication versus maybe doing a joint venture instead, right? And when you do it, right? When my threshold happens to be a $3 million threshold. Okay. All right. So let's talk about, this is kind of the meat of the subject for today, right? It's talking about how to syndicate, right? How to syndicate. Okay. So I'm going to go, as I was kind of putting these things together, I realized that each one of these is a topic of itself that could be discussed for multiple hours. And so this is kind of like a high level talk about how to syndicate. And again, this is really about how I syndicated, right? My deal. All right. So hopefully I'm able to give you guys some pointers when you're syndicating of what you can look out for. Because that's truthfully what this whole channel is really about. I'm not really here to hash out education that you can get in other places. I'm really here trying to give you some inside pointers of maybe something that you didn't hear about that is based off of my experience, and maybe that can help you in your experience as well. All right. So one thing that when I'm doing a syndication is that you need to interview the attorneys, right? And you need to do this very, very early, right? Because you're waiting for them to get the paperwork done. So the longer you wait while you're interviewing attorneys, just delays time, right? And that's time that you don't have when you're under contract. So there are things like when you are interviewing them, these are some of the questions that I ask them, right? I want to ask them about their timelines. So how fast are they going to be able to get this to me, right? And specifically, how fast are they going to be able to do entity creation? Like, so we're going to create new entities. We're going to create several new entities actually, right? So with these new entities, how fast are they able to do that and create those entities for me? They're going to need to draft operating agreements. So again, how long is it going to take to draft these operating agreements? These operating agreements can be, hopefully they're not too lengthy, right? But I would say they're going to be 30 pages, at least. Maybe they may be 40, they may be 80 pages. So how long is it going to take to draft these operating agreements? And it's going to also depend on you, right? So, but these are questions that you're going to ask them. Okay, how long is it going to take you to draft my operating agreements? When am I going to see a draft of this before I approve of it or make any additions or subtractions from it? Or how about the PPM, the private placement memorandum, right? How long is it going to take for me to get that back? That is an essential piece when you are syndicating a deal, right? And that is the document that's like 120 pages minimum. I don't know. It's 100 and something pages. Could be 150. Mine was gigantic and it ended up being like 200 pages. I don't want it to be that long, right? Because I have to read that multiple times and I don't want to read that so many times, right? So I don't want it to be so long, but I need it to get back to me ASAP so that we can read it over. Subscription agreement. That's another document that you're going to need to get done by your attorney, right? And these are syndication attorneys, right? So that you're looking for specifically, syndication attorneys, right? These are people who deal with federal law, right? The national law, not a state attorney, right? A state attorney deals with your specific state, your one of your 50 states, right? These are syndication attorneys. They deal with the federal law. Okay. So subscription agreement, you're going to ask them, when are they going to get this document back, right? How long is that going to take? Obviously, the sooner the better, right? Cost, obviously, cost is a big indication. What is it going to be? I'm going to tell you that in general, you're looking at, on the low side, probably $10,000. On the high side, probably $20,000. So you're somewhere in the middle there, right? $15,000 on average. I guess when I did this interviews earlier late last year, about $15,000, right? And then, truthfully, if you're in this game and you're doing this a lot, I mean, use that to your leverage. So you can say, hey, I'm going to be doing multiple deals with you. So do you offer some type of volume discount, or what type of discount do I get if I come back, right? So those are questions you want to ask. I know I certainly always do. How about methods of communication? This is an important one, right? What methods of communication do they want? Some attorneys are much more open, and they'll give you their cell phone number, right? So I could text my attorney, right? Some attorneys are like strictly email, like that's it. Just email me. Don't call me. Don't try to text me. I'm not going to give you my cell phone number. Email me, right? And so if you're okay with that, then you're okay with that, right? But you got to understand, what is the methods of communication. I'll give you some important ones. Team, finding out their team. All right. Who's working on your project? Is it one person, or is it a team of people, right? Some attorneys only work by themselves. So it's just them, right? So, and some are part of a group of attorneys, right? And so it might be multiple people on your project, right? There's benefits and disadvantages to either one, right? And another question you may ask is kind of like working with a title company, right? So do they work with a title company? Obviously, different states are different. So some of them don't really work with the title companies, and they'll do the closing themselves. Some of them, in some states, the title company will do the closing. If it's me, I'm going to suggest that the title company, you try to get a title company to do the closing. And that's just from experience. So every time I do it and I talk to my attorneys, it's always, we're going to try to get a title company to do the closing. And so it's off of the lawyer's hands. All right. Some other questions. Hopefully those are good pointers, but I'm going to tell you to ask about their vacation time. So I've had multiple attorneys that have went on vacation while I was under contract. And if they're your only point of contact, so they're the only attorney working on your deal, and they go on vacation, then what happens? Like, are they going to communicate with you, or are you going to be you're not going to know, you're not going to get an answer for a week, right? And so I'm going to tell you that I didn't ask that question a couple times, and those attorneys went on vacation during when I was under contract, and it was very stressful. I mean, I was bombarding their email with, like, hey, we need an answer for this thing right now. What's going on? And then I got a email back the following Monday, and it says, hey, sorry, I was out of office. I forgot to put my out of office on. I was out on vacation. I was like, you got to tell me that kind of stuff. So you got to know if it's the only person that's working on your deal and they go on vacation, what's the situation? What happens then? I mean, and it could be worse. It could be like, hey, I don't know. They might get an accident. They might have something go really wrong. And then who's going to be on your deal? Who's working on your deal, right? And that could really kind of mess you up. So there's other things to ask about. Depending on your deal, they might be doing lender representation, right? Which means they are representing you as your attorney to the lender and the lender's attorney, right? Not every lender has this back and forth with you and their attorney, but sometimes that happens, right? So sometimes they'll offer lender representation as part of their, it's probably extra, it's probably extra part of their, it's not necessarily part of their syndication work, but it might be extra. So ask about that. And another suggestion I would say is expedite the entity creation. Okay. So I don't know about everybody else, but like, I didn't realize that, like, so I had my deal, we use Delaware, right? And Delaware is like one of the most business friendly states and all this stuff. It's great. They love business and everything. Well, Delaware, for some reason in November and December, was super backed up with entity creations. And I was like, I thought this is a business friendly state. I thought you could create an entity in like one day. Why is it taking a month? It took over a month to get this done. And I was like, that's ridiculous. And sometimes your entities need to be created in order. So you can't get one created until the other one gets created. And there was like this huge backlog. And I don't know if there's still a backlog with Delaware, but found out later, hey, you guys could, do you want to pay to get it expedited? This is after like a month of trying to, back and forth with a lawyer. Hey, when are we going to get this? And it's like, oh, well, whenever Delaware is ready, whenever they get to, your date. And I was like, oh, we can get this expedited? So, I mean, what's the cost? How much does that cost to get it expedited? It's like $50. I was like, $50? What are we waiting for? We waited a month just because we didn't want to expedite this for $50? That's crazy. So I don't know. I mean, just if there's a way to expedite it, get it done fast, right? Pay the $50. That's ridiculous that we had to wait for that long. Okay, let me see. So that's some of the things right there. Let me talk about the other how. Okay, sorry if it's getting a little noisy. I think my son's trying to get in the door here. But let's see, bank accounts. This is one of those things that, like, it sounds like, hey, it's so easy. You just go down to the bank and get your bank account set up. It has been a ordeal on every single one of my deals. So all those 7 properties, every single one has had issues with getting the bank accounts created. Now, maybe it's because I'm working with this one bank, but they're a national bank. They're one of the biggest banks in America. And I don't know, maybe that's why that there's hard to, hard to get the banks all set up. But the bank accounts, hopefully you're working with a banker, not just like the teller. Hopefully you have a relationship with somebody, right? And get a relationship, get these bank accounts set up ASAP. If you have partners in the deal, you sometimes need to get them to be a signer on these bank accounts as well. And if they're in a different state, like my business partner, he's in Dallas, Texas, I'm in Los Angeles, that becomes a huge issue. And I don't know why it's such a big thing, but there's different forms you got to sign up, you got to fill out, and then they got to have ID. And sometimes they want you both to be there at the same time, all kinds of weird stuff that I'm like, bank accounts is ridiculous how hard it is to get a bank account set up. Then once you get it set up, you need to work with your broker to make sure that it does not get frozen when you're about to send in all this money, because bank accounts are really kind of like leery of, like, all of a sudden all these wires come in. You open a bank account, then there's no activity for a few days, and then all of a sudden wires start coming in, 50,000, 50,000, 50,000, 100,000. And then they're like, whoa, where did all this come from? And they shut you down, which happened to me. They froze my account. And I'm like, okay, I'm already working with this bank. I already have multiple accounts with them. I already have a banker. He's already got this in place. And then they still froze the account. And so we couldn't have any more wires come in. And that's like, all right, this is, it's just like, I don't know why. Maybe I just have bad luck with this bank situation. But this is me telling you, you don't want to just think in your head, oh, I just go down and I just go to my local branch and I just open up a bank account and I can get people to send wires and money, and it takes me 45 minutes, right? It's like, it takes multiple days, and it takes until you get it all cleared and everything. That all those days that it's ticking away is time that's eating into your time under contract, right? So do this ASAP. So get those legal documents ASAP so that you can get the bank accounts created ASAP, and you get the money's wired ASAP, right? All those things kind of have to happen in order. All right. Enough about bank accounts. Other thing you got to do when you're syndicating, you got to raise the capital, right? And I'm not going to get specifically, there's all kinds of rules that you need to read and understand about how to raise capital correctly and do it right. So understand you need to do that. But besides that, there are other things that you need to think about when you're syndicating a deal. So in my last deal, we had 70 investors, right? Now, how are you going to manage that, right? That's something you need to think about. How are you going to manage this? In other words, 70 people are going to be signing all these documents, multiple documents. You need to send them the documents first. They need to sign them. They need to get them back to you. Where are you going to house all these documents? Then are you going to verify who wired what money, they said they were going to wire 50,000, but instead they wired 40,000, or they put in 75,000. All these different things that you need to sort of manage. You need to figure out if you're going to do it on a spreadsheet because you want to save money. Well, there's 70 people that are going to, like, you need to make sure that all these numbers work out exactly. I use a management portal, right? So perhaps you look into doing it into a management portal and use a management portal. That's what I did. But you need to do this ahead of time and figure out which management portal you want to go with. There's a number of them out there, and if you want a recommendation, I can give you a recommendation. But something to think about just ahead of time is, like, how am I going to manage all these investors, right? And what management portal do I want to use? It's going to cost money. It's not $30 a month, right? It's going to be a lot more than that. So just plan on talking with several of the companies and figure out which one is the best one for you. All right. In addition to, like, raising money, you're probably going to do a webinar. Now, you don't have to, but I would say it's kind of standard nowadays to do a webinar, right? So you're going to be doing a 30, 40-minute webinar. You might take Q&A at the end, but you need to plan ahead and do this webinar to present, your deal to people, all right? That means you're going to put it together an investor PowerPoint deck. All these things need to be done, ahead of time. So you can't, like, wait to the last minute to put these things together, right? You need video, you need pictures, you need to put that all into a nice looking PowerPoint deck. And then you need to go over it on a webinar, right? And answer questions, right? So that all takes time. Because once you're done with the webinar, you're going to direct people to where? To your management portal, or you're going to direct them to your, you're going to just do it on Excel, or what are you going to do, right? So all the legal documents generally need to be very close to being ready, or ready already, ready at that point. So when you push out your webinar, you're going to say, okay, well, our documents are ready. So send me an email and I'll get you to the portal where you can sign up and do this all online, or I'm going to send you the documents. But they're ready, or they're going to be ready next week. You need to have an idea of, like, when this is all, going to happen, right? So hopefully it's a lot of juggling. It's a lot of juggling of, like, all these different things, right? And this is just part of the raising capital. Okay. Questions. Definitely, I've seen a bunch of people, John, Zach, Lonnie, Justin, other Facebook users put questions in. Definitely continue to write your questions into there, and I'll get to them when we get to the Q&A. I just wanted to throw that reminder in there for everybody to ask questions. And it doesn't have to be about syndicating. It can be just finding deals, or partnering on self-storage, or lending, or whatever it is. It could be totally different questions, right? All right. Speaking of lending, all right, let's get in. Speaking of lending, the how on the lending side. Again, this is something you need to start early. So on a couple of my deals, I started a little bit too late, and it kind of made I was trying to pick the lender once I had the deal. You can do that, and we've done it and been successful doing that. But I'm going to tell you, it puts you really close to the deadlines. So you want to probably pick your lender probably sooner than once you get the deal under contract. So you want to kind of have that in place. All right, I would suggest it. That's what we're moving towards right now. Previously, I'd pick the lender, right when I get it under contract. But now I'm trying to, like, form a relationship with the lender so that I can move forward with them before we even. As soon as we get under contract, it's like, lender, get us term sheets and let's move forward, right? So I'm not going to really. Before, I was taking phone calls from all these different lenders and trying to decide, and then trying to get everything ready, and it's just like, it's wasting time that I don't have at that particular point. All right, so start early. Very quickly, you're going to have to sign the term sheet, right? So you're going to get a term sheet from their lender, and then you're going to put the deposit down. You have to put a deposit down. So that can be sizable, could be like on my last one, I think it was $30,000. I've seen ones that ask for like $70,000, right? Other ones, $20,000, right? So you're looking at a minimum of $20,000 you got to put down, right? So that money is usually a good faith deposit, and that's going to go towards paying your your third-party reports. But that needs to be done ASAP, right? So those third-party reports, I don't know about you guys, but if you're doing everything in real estate right now is taking a long time, right? And so third-party reports are just like that. They are taking forever to get them done. So don't wait to get your third-party reports going. You need to get them done ASAP, which means you need to put down your deposit, your good faith deposit. Now, I will also tell you on the term sheet, just so you know, that term sheet is like, it's not a commitment letter. Okay. It's a, this is what we would do if we were doing it right now, but it's not commitment. We're not giving you this actual rate until we know that we're going to close this deal. So if you're going to close in 60 days, whatever it is, if you're going to extend it to 90 days, the rates and everything are going to change. So you got to be aware of that. And that affected me on my last deal. I was like, the rates in November were very, very different than the rates were in February. So I don't know if you can go back to November and think about what was going on then. Rates were super low. Rates were low and everything was low. And then everything is cool. And yeah, okay, this, we're getting great deals on rates. Then you start talking January, February, what came out? A lot of like, hey, inflation is going crazy. Inflation is going way up. Inflation is going way up. And so all these things started to spike. Hey, we're about to get into World War III. So there was like, hey, all these things that would like spook the lenders, and the rates went way up. I mean, not like a couple points. I mean, not like, a couple tenths of a percent. It went way up. So I had to pay a lot more than my term sheet was. So just remember that. Okay. And not until you get a commitment letter. Now, one thing that you can do, right now, you can get a rate cap, right? So there's things called a rate cap, which means you might pay extra, whether that's percent or whether that's good faith deposit or whatever it is. You might pay a little bit extra to cap your rate at a certain point, right? Something you can think about. I'll just tell you that, hey, on a deal that I'm working on, we got a rate cap, and we didn't put down any extra for it. So it worked out. We didn't do anything extra, and our rate cap is pretty good, solid for 75 days. And so super happy about that. Okay. I'll just, like real quickly, the how-to part about due diligence, right? You need to be doing your due diligence. This is from the very beginning, on-site due diligence, property management calls. I did a whole series on due diligence. And it involves things like getting your market analysis done, your financial analysis, figuring out who you're going to hire, who's going to be your property manager, roofers, electricians, all that kind of stuff, right? So that all stuff needs to be done while you're syndicating the deal too, right? And that needs to be done. I should put that early. It needs to be done right away. All right. Okay. So that all said, that is kind of like wraps up the presentation on how to syndicate a deal. And again, it's a lot of how to syndicate, but hopefully some tips in terms of things that I went through and things that can hopefully alleviate some of the problems that you might face, obstacles you might face when you're syndicating a deal. So if you've liked this, I'd appreciate if you give me a thumbs up, give me a like, give me a yes. We're going to jump into some Q&A pretty soon. I do want to talk really quickly just about a couple things that, people have been asking me, ever since, my last live streams. A lot of people have been asking about partnering and like, how does it work with my team? So there is I don't know, if you look down in the description, there's a place where if you're interested, you can fill out a form. It's a Google form for partnering with me and my team. Generally, the people that join our partnerships are looking for something like a small group, right? They're looking for like a small group. Nowadays, my group is getting smaller and smaller. I did say that, hey, we syndicated with 70 people. However, my next deals are a lot smaller than 70 people. We don't really have as many people in them because we're doing this much more efficiently now. And nowadays, really, people that are joining my groups tend to be people that need a significant amount of depreciation. Like on the deals that I'm projecting right now, we have more than 100% of their investment is going to be returned in the first year in depreciation. So if somebody put in like 100,000, they're going to see more than $100,000 in depreciation in your first year. So people who are looking for that type of thing generally tend to be the people that are joining my partnership. So In addition, on there, people have asked about mentorship. I do have a mentorship program. All right. If you're interested in joining my team as far as a mentorship program, it's on an actual deal, right? So I mentor people on an actual deal, which is my deal, right? And bring in a few people. And truthfully, it's not an education program. So I'm not there to educate people. It's really like people that want to join a deal and see and get hands-on experience of how to actually run a deal. So if that's interested to you, fill out that form, that partnership form. It's in the description. And another thing, just really quickly, we did create a fund. We're sort of in this process right now. We're in the very beginning stages of creating a fund. We created a fund for accredited investors who really want to diversify into multiple real estate asset classes. So like self-storage, multifamily, short-term rentals, I don't know, debt and equity, short-term, long-term type of opportunities. It's a minimum of $25,000 to invest in the deal into our fund, but it is for accredited investors only. So if you're interested, it's all in that partnership form. Just go ahead and sign up there. So, okay, that all said, let's get into Q&A. All right, we got a bunch of Q&A. There's some people that have submitted some Q&A before this, so I'm just going to answer some of their questions. So we have, let's see, we have one about development. Okay, do I get involved in development, and would I partner on development? I'm going to tell you that right now. Okay, let me just explain to you in self-storage. In self-storage, there are generally three main acquisition strategies. There is development from the ground up. So I got a vacant land. I'm putting a brand new self-storage facility there. Okay, development. There's conversions. That means I'm taking an old Kmart or something, right? I'm taking an old Toys R Us or something and converting it from a former grocery store into now a self-storage facility, right? So our shell's already built. It's good because, it's in a high visibility retail location, that type of thing. That's a conversion, right? And then the last one is buying existing properties, right? So if you just buy an existing properties, that's also an acquisition strategy. My priority right now is buying existing facilities. So I would say, use the Pareto principle or whatever. I'm really focusing on buying existing facilities. There is an opportunity that if it's a conversion, I will look at it, but that's not really what I'm going after. There's just, opportunity, but not really my focus. Okay. Development from the ground up, not really my focus. I generally tend to pass at this point on doing any development deals. Really want to stay laser focused on the existing properties. So that all said, that is my answer for right now, 2022. You ask me in a year or so, I might be all about developing, and that's the only thing I do. But for right now, development, most likely going to pass. I'm probably not going to partner on a development deal. Okay, I got another question here from Ricardo. Let's see. He wanted to ask about seller financing or SBA. If you don't have a large network of investors, and he's in a position where it would be sort of him and his wife. So, I guess give me the scenario. That's that's a great scenario. If there's many opportunities around that for smaller operators, right? If you are a smaller operator where it's just you and your wife, you and your spouse, and you want to get a facility and you want to buy something that's in the $200,000 range, maybe the $500,000 range, right? That's not a big facility. As long as you feel like you're going to be the one operating it on your own, you probably don't make enough money in that to hire a lot of support, right? So you got to think that you're probably going to run it on your own, but there's a lot of opportunity out there, and you're buying that from a mom and pop seller, and maybe you're able to get seller financing, or maybe even it's SBA financing. But there's a lot of opportunity there. Me right now, it's a little too small for my threshold. So I need to have a property that's big enough that I can support, property management on its own. So in general, I'm looking at 3 million and up. 3 million and up. 3 to 15 million is kind of my sweet spot right now. Okay. let's see. We got another Q&A here from, let's see. I think this is Justin. Did you create your own analyzer, or do you know of any out there to evaluate self-storage? I created my own. Well, I would say me. My business partner created ours, right? So he created, he did it, did the whole thing, right? Now, so we have our own, but there's other ones out there. There's education programs out there. Again, I'm not an educator in self-storage. So there are programs out there that you can get people's deal evaluators. They're readily available. I mean, I've seen some groups that, they almost give theirs away, and I'm like, that's a pretty important piece of tool that you can have. So, you can find them. Just try to find, just stay in the loop with a lot of people who are involved with these education programs, and you can get yourself a deal analyzer, or just pay for one, right? All right. Bernardo, thank you, Bernardo. Let's see, you got a couple questions here. It says, how does underwriting for a self-storage deal differ from multifamily? Okay. Question 2, is it harder to find property management? Okay, especially at the C and B class properties. How do you find out how much each storage unit can rent for? Okay, essentially, where do you find comps? All right, so that's the question. Okay, so there's a lot in this question. This is basically a whole topic spend the whole topic on just these questions here. But self-storage does differ from multifamily. It is a different asset class. Now, it is in basics, it's the same. It's income versus expenses. But your income, you get your income maybe from different things. And how valuable are those different sources of income? Obviously, rent is the number one thing, right? In multifamily, you're also getting laundry, right? You're not getting any laundry in self-storage. Maybe you're getting parking. Okay, well, you actually in self-storage, you're getting probably a lot of parking. There's probably a good opportunity to get parking, right? In self-storage, there's things like, how about insurance, like tenant insurance? For the most part, multifamily doesn't, I would say, I don't know, maybe 5% of the time or something. There's a property that requires tenant insurance, and maybe they make some commission off of that tenant insurance. In self-storage, it's a lot higher percentage. All right, so you're generally getting some income from your tenant insurance or tenant protection. Okay, so you just need to know what are the subtle differences, right? I can't go over all of them because they're all very different, and there's a bunch of them, right? And it would, like I said, that's a whole course, right, on underwriting differences between multifamily and self-storage. But in general, income, expenses, NOI, I would tell you that, hey, one of the benefits of self-storage is that, I would say this, in multifamily, the rule of thumb for your expenses is generally what? 50% of your income is probably going to go towards expenses, right? 50%. That's kind of a rule of thumb. Self-storage, that rule of thumb is about 40. Right, so it's 40. So 40% of your of your income is going towards expenses. So you have 10% more buffer there in self-storage than you do in multifamily. In just a rule of thumb, right? Okay. Let's see. Other questions here. Is it harder to find property management? Okay, so really quickly. Okay, I got about 10 more minutes at most. So I'm going to try to get to as many questions as I can. So I won't probably go into so much depth, but I'm going to try to answer the questions really quickly. In multifamily, you are a lot more, your property management is a lot more locally based. So it's either in that area or maybe that region, right? So if you're in Atlanta, your property management company is probably based in Atlanta, and maybe they do some property management in Augusta, Georgia as well, right? So, but they're locally based. In self-storage, you can have a self-storage property manager who is based in I don't know, Wyoming, and your property is in Florida, right? It doesn't really matter as much. So you can have a lot more sort of a national scale. And even in self-storage, you can actually have, well, you didn't ask about A-class properties, but in some of the A-class properties, you can have some of the big boys, Public Storage, Extra Space, Life Storage, CubeSmart. Those are the big players in the market, right? They will be willing to manage your Class A type of facility, maybe Class B too. So you can even get the big boys to manage your facility. Whereas in multifamily, if you got a Class A development in New York City, Yeah, that's probably not going to be the right property manager for most of us who are investing in sort of B and C class properties, not in New York City, right? Okay. How do you find out how much each storage unit is renting for? I mean, truthfully, the best way is you got to call, right? You got to call people and ask them, right? There's aggregators out there that can kind of tell you what people are renting for and things like that. That gives you an indication, but the best is to actually call. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. So I'm going to cycle through. Let's see a bunch of questions that came through from people. Let's see. Okay. So, okay. So I'm just going to show a bunch of comments and see where we get. Okay. So Lonnie, thank you for joining. Your asset class you're very interested in. Thanks. Open your mind up to self-storage. Okay. Yeah. And multifamily con. Yeah. Thanks for joining. We enjoyed that there. Okay. Let's see. What's this? Did you get any education or coaching prior to investing in self-storage? Yeah, at the time I did. I paid for basically a course. The only thing I really truthfully wanted in that course was the underwriting tool, because I wanted to see how they were underwriting self-storage different from multifamily. I already kind of knew a lot of the other stuff. So like choosing a market, talking to brokers, direct mail, lending, a lot of that stuff is very translatable from multifamily to self-storage. So I didn't really feel like that was the important thing. It was really the underwriting. Okay. So did I pay for that? Yes, I did. And then we built our own anyway. So I just wanted to make sure though that our assumptions were right. Okay. Let me see. Hey, John Deuce Ace Lopez, thank you for joining as well. Yeah, appreciate it. Enjoyed the time on the Galveston deal. Yep. Okay. All right. So let's see. We got some information here from Zach. I think you were talking about the costs, the attorneys, right? Okay. Cost for everything was $45,000 for everything. All right. So, I mean, a lot of times these, attorneys can cost a lot. So, yep. Lonnie, thank you for your comment here as far as getting bank accounts set up with partners in other states. Yep, you felt that too, right? Okay. Let's see. Recommendations on your management portal. I mean, I use Cashflow Portal. I'm sure there's a bunch out there, but I use Cashflow Portal. I know Perry, so he's the owner of Cashflow Portal. We've been in contact for years before I even signed up on his system. So I know him. He's a good guy, and he'll take care of you. If you need a reference, just go ahead and reach out to me. Let me see. Okay, here's a question for recommendations for analyzing deals. I think you mean like what type of analyzer, or do you mean something else? Recommendations for analyzing deals. My main recommendation is you got to do a lot of them, right? You got to get out there and analyze a bunch of them. Now you can create your own. There's other self-storage analyzers out there. They're not that hard to find. I see them on Facebook groups. I see them all over the place. You can just pick up ones and then kind of alter them to what you think is best for your situation. Okay. Lonnie, I think I kind of answered very briefly, like how to analyze self-storage compared to multifamily. Again, it's a whole big topic, right? It's not something I can answer right away, but I hopefully gave you some quick answers into like some of the differences. I'll give you another difference right now. So in multifamily, right, one of your biggest expenses is your utilities, right? So that's why everybody's trying to do RUBS, right? Ratio utility build back system, right? Trying to make your tenants pay for their utility usage, right? So that's a big thing in multifamily, right? In storage, what's your utility cost? Not very much. You have some electricity, sure. I don't know. A couple of my properties, we pay like $300 a month in electricity costs, right? But I mean, that's not that much. One of my properties, my very first property, right? The one I closed 14 months ago, our first bill, we looked at our water bill, right? And I was like, water bill. Water is on one of my multifamily properties. Water is just killing us. You got to pay for water and sewage. It's just a huge bill. Probably my first or second biggest bill every month. And, it's in the like $1,500 to $2,000 on a 40 unit property. So I was expecting, well, what is it going to be for a self-storage facility? Came back first month, $30. I was like, $30. I was holy. I was like, that's awesome. I love that already. So I paid $30 our first month, and then what we do, we canceled it. So we don't pay water anymore. So we don't even have water bill on that facility anymore. All right. Let me see. Here's a question from a Facebook user. Do you have a database of investors interested in self-storage before you started syndicating? The answer is yes. Yes. You're always growing your database of investors. All right. You're always, adding to that and getting forming a relationship with those individuals who are interested in investing with you. Right. You got to be doing that all the time, no matter what. That's why you go to meetups. That's why you join Facebook groups. That's why you, come to our conference, things like that. All right. Okay. Hey, Rick. Hey, Rick. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for showing up here. Let's see. Jose, what amenities are you utilizing for storage facilities? What amenities? Like outside of just renting the storage facilities. So like parking is a big one, right? So parking. Other things that we do. So I mentioned the tenant insurance, right? So it's required. Tenant insurance is required for us. We also our Galveston deal, the one that I showed you pictures of, that one we also have kind of like a security system in place. It's called Storage Defender. If you want to contact the Storage Defender, I can tell you about it. But it's kind of like a security system for the tenants. So they basically it's like this little sensor inside of their unit that when somebody goes in their unit or if somebody is moving stuff in their unit, they get a text message that says, "Hey, are you inside your unit?" Something, because we're detecting movement, right? It doesn't go to me as the owner, the operator. All right. So I'm not monitoring their stuff. It goes to them directly so that they can say, "Hey, yeah, that's my brother. I gave him the code so he can go get his old trophies out of my storage unit." Or it's like, "No, I didn't go there. Like, what's going on? Like, I need to check and see if somebody's like breaking into my facility or my location." So there's that. It's called Storage Defender. We have that, and we're looking to institute that on more of our properties, but it's inside of R1 right now in Galveston. Okay. Rick, hey, let's see. You got a question here. What's the ratio that gets you to an ideal income level? In other words, how many doors or square feet puts a property at its best ROI? I guess comparing to multifamily. Really hard to say, just because it depends on how you're running it, right? So I mentioned that there are some facilities that are running that are smaller. Say you buy one for $400,000, right? Well, most likely that's not going to give you enough income to have a third-party property manager, right? So that means you yourself need to be doing that. So, the expenses are different on that one than say would be on my Galveston deal, which we have a third-party property manager that we have to pay for, right? So it's a little hard to say in terms of income and expenses, because each deal is different, right? And then the size and maybe the class, whether it's class A, class B, or class C. But hopefully that gives you, I don't know if I answered that question right. Feel free to, send me a message, Rick, if you want me to answer the question in a sort of a different way of like either comparing multifamily with storage. I did mention a little bit about, just in general, the rule of thumb is for multifamily, you're about a 50% expense ratio. And the rule of thumb for storage is you're about a 40% expense ratio. So you have less expenses in storage, right? And a significant amount of storage facilities can get below that 40% pretty easily. Whereas in multifamily, if you're below 50%, you're going to start to throw up some red flags that you may be just killing off your property, right? That you're not maintaining your property well enough. You're not putting enough money into your property. If you're running it at 40%, that's going to be like, wow, red flags. I don't know. Maybe you can do it. Maybe you're a better operator than I am in multifamily. So, but I would say in general, those are some of the things. Okay. that is kind of it. I appreciate you guys all for joining. In closing, would love if you could give me a thumbs up or give me a like. I plan to do this again probably next week. So if you have the time, we'll probably do it at the same time. If you have like a topic or questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media. There's my bunch of my social media things there. Just reach out to me, give me a topic. Love to hear from you guys. And if you're interested in joining any of those partnership opportunities or mentorship, then feel free to fill out that Google form. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.